Hello, I'm Robert, fact checker and science blogger and admin for the Facebook group Doomsday Debunked. And do join our group and to get some help with this sort of thing. Anyway, this time I'm talking about the strike by Iran on US bases in Iraq. And there's absolutely no way that this in any way risks a World War III, which is what most of you are scared about. And I hear from people who couldn't get to sleep and absolutely terrified that a World War III is about to happen. This is not going to happen. Iran cannot, even if it wanted to, Iran does not have the sort of weapons that could start a war with the United States. That is just not where it's going to go. Russia is not on Iran's side on this. They have some shared interest. They sometimes cooperate in a military way, but there's no way that Russia is going to support Iran on this at all. And Iran's ballistic missiles, they have voluntarily decided not to let their missiles, not to build missiles that can go further than 2,000 kilometers. They decided that in 2017. They do not have nuclear weapons. They cannot create nuclear weapons quickly. They are not interested in using nuclear weapons for attack. It's, as with everyone, it is a deterrent to stop other people from invading them. And they want to stay within the Iran deal, and they have no beef with the United Kingdom or Europe, who have stayed within the Iran deal. The only reason that they are hostile to the United States on this matter is because it has left the Iran deal and imposed crippling sanctions on them. And they can hardly sell any of their oil, which is their principal export. So naturally, they're very angry with the United States over that. And that basically is what it's all about. And a war would not solve that for Iran, and would not solve that for the United States. There's absolutely no military objective. And this attack that they did, it doesn't serve any military purpose. There's no value in this to Iran. The reason they did this is because the United States killed Soleimani, who was their second in command of Iran. Even though he was only in charge of a few thousand people, the Kurds who have, but he was very, very important for their influence in Iran, outside Iran, and the diplomacy across the whole Middle East. And one person I commented on, I mentioned down here, was on the BBC News. He said that for Iran, then Soleimani was more important to the Iran than their navy, than the entire Iranian navy. It's possible that the Pentagon didn't realize quite what an important figure they had killed with this assassination. Anyway, it turns out that first of all, it turns out Mark Esper, US Secretary of Defense, said they killed him because of an imminent risk. This hugely changes the legal situation if this is true. And there's quite a lot of evidence that suggests that actually, surprising though it is, that it's possible that in terms of international military law, it might have been legal, what the United States did. What he says is that they had intelligence that Soleimani was about to kill large numbers of Americans, and that this was a proportional attack. Nobody believed that. There were hardly anyone amongst legal experts until basically today. And he shared intelligence at different levels, and there's nobody contradicting him on this. So it seems quite possible that he was indeed planning, this chap was indeed planning, and for this to be proportional, for it to be legally acceptable under international law of armed conduct, to kill someone in these circumstances without the permission of the government of the country that he was visiting, and without any declared war, then he must have been planning to kill very large numbers of US citizens, dozens or more, in some near future strike. He says within a few days. Now, if that is true, then Iran will know about that, of course. And so this would explain their muted response. And it would really explain an awful lot of what's been going on for the last few days, if this intelligence is indeed correct. So Javad Zarif, who's their foreign secretary, he said Iran took and concluded proportionate measures in self-defense. And he says, we do not seek escalation or war, but will defend ourselves against any aggression. They say they targeted the base from which the attack came that killed Soleimani. Now, Donald Trump responded to that, and people were worrying, oh, he's going to respond by escalating back. No, he's not. Because, and the first reports from CNN were that there seemed to be some Iraqi casualties, but now we've heard from Iraq there don't seem to be Iraqi casualties, and so far there's no reports of any American casualties, there are no reports of any UK casualties, even though the UK soldiers. So it seems to be a very ineffective attack, and this is probably intentionally so. There's no doubt at all that Iran could have done a much more forceful attack than this with the weapons they have at their disposal. And Trump replied, all is well, missiles, and he talks about how strong the US military is, which is true, but for there to be no casualties also, then Iran would certainly not pull all the stops out on this. So the various people talking about this so far, then most expert opinion seems to be that this was indeed a proportionate response, a very muted measure on the part of Iran, considering how important Soleimani was for them. And there's a possibility that it stops at this point if Trump doesn't retaliate, which doesn't seem to. At the moment, so far, we are waiting to see what he says, but so far it doesn't seem likely they're going to retaliate. And if so, then it is possible that they return to the nuclear deal. Now, do I have that up? So I'm not going to go into all the details. I've got these various debunks. It'll take quite a while to explain. Here's my debunking doomsday thing. This is about how it turns out that they weren't targeting cultural sites. But what I'm particularly interested in here is, and there's no way you're going to get drafted. So I'll just mention that very quickly. I get people, I've had quite a few private messages from people who are scared in the US, who are scared that they're going to get drafted. There is absolutely no way. This is just, it makes no sense at all. Because what use would be a soldier who has just been drafted, who has never held a gun before? They're not going to be whisking you out to Iraq to fight against battle-hardened, trained Shia militants. I mean, you'd just be a liability. So no, there's no way that Trump is going to try to deal with the situation with drafting people. The only situation, and even in the Iraq War, they didn't have a draft. That was way, way beyond what's happened so far. The only situation they would need a draft is something like the Vietnam War, a very, very big war. And if they were going to invade Iran, but it makes no sense at all for the United States to invade Iran. Simply, absolutely no sense. The reason is that there's nobody there who wants to be liberated. The Iranian people are pretty much unanimous in their opposition to the United States. So what's the game plan? John Bolton talks about invading Iran and being in Tehran in the near future. Of course, he's been sacked now, but or retired, involuntarily retired, or whatever it is. But suppose the United States did, after probably years of battle, manage to control Tehran and Iran, what would be the next step after that, in charge of a country where everyone is against you? This doesn't make sense. This can't possibly be an Iranian, a US game plan. US plan. And now people say, oh, but Trump, he's just going to start a war because he'll get votes. This doesn't happen. Serious wars lose votes big time, according to best research. You can read my article about why that is. And even small wars, even the Iraq invasion, which wasn't so much in terms of, I'm talking about small and large in terms of US casualties, not the casualties of the other people involved, because that is what affects US voters. And this certainly invading Iran, and I talk about that, is in some of these debunks. If invading Iran would be a very, very major war, and thousands and thousands and thousands of US soldiers would die, and there's absolutely no way that Trump would gain votes from that. And especially the ones who are only weakly in support of him, then he's going to lose those if he starts a war. And the Democrats would have a huge campaign point against him because he promised not to start any major wars. So particularly with Trump, and particularly with his pledge to not start major wars, he would lose votes. He would surely lose his next election if he starts a war. So, no, and I've got a Washington Post article I linked to which basically explains that. Attacking Iran will not help Trump win the election. And bear in mind, Washington Post is left-leaning. If there was some kind of reasoning behind that, they would likely put it. So no, this is not a risk. A draft is not a risk. Nuclear war is absolutely not a risk because Iran does not have nuclear weapons and it can't get them quickly, and it doesn't want nuclear weapons for attack. It's only for defense, as with everyone except Pakistan. And even in Pakistan, it is for defense because they want to be able to defend against the invasion by the numerically superior Indian army. Anyway, I won't go into all that. I get easily distracted in these videos. So what have I talked about? Oh yes, the nuclear deal. So I'm going to go through the simple answers why we don't risk World War III, just to remind you on that. And I just want to say that Iran is not withdrawing from the nuclear deal, despite lots and lots. We get fake news. We get fake news even from the highest quality newspapers. This is the Times, which is in the UK is roughly equivalent to the New York Times, and it is a completely fake story. They said that Iran said that they would target UK troops, and the Iranian ambassador issued a formal complaint about this fake news. They got some rumour or other from someone and claimed that was what Iran was saying. Absolute nonsense. So you get that even sometimes in reputable, and I was astonished that the Times would do that. It's the least likely of all our papers to do something like that. Anyway, so all the papers saying that a lot of them said that Iran is withdrawing from the deal, and they were wrong. This was just a mistake. They make sometimes very serious mistakes, our papers do. Especially in a rapidly developing story, they don't check things. An awful lot of journalists just rush stories to the press without checking, without even asking someone who knows about it. They just get some rumour somewhere and then they play with it and they make it into a scary story. It happens so much with climate change, and it happened with this nuclear deal thing. They are not withdrawing from the deal. What they did was very nuanced and very clever, really. They have already removed all the restrictions on uranium enrichment, but just by a tiny amount. They, in the agreement, they had to stay within a little bit over 3% uranium enrichment. Civilian reactors are typically run between 3 and 5% enrichment. They increased to 4.5%, just a slight increase. In order to, they're just making a point, saying we are not sticking within the deal because the US has withdrawn. Just kind of making a point. And so they went up to this 4.5. And now they're saying they're no longer going to have any restriction on the number of centrifuges. And they say this is within JCPOA, that means JCPOA, that is the Iran deal, and so they are not exiting the deal. All that news was absolutely wrong, and all the 5 steps are reversible, and they go on to say in more detail that if the sanctions against them are dropped, which they consider to be totally unproportionate and not justified at all, and in fact Europe and Russia and China, they all agree with Iran on this point. They say that these sanctions are not justified, and they're doing everything they can to evade the sanctions, while and basically it's the power of the US dollar, and people have even talked about saying that they should try and establish some different international currency in order to not be subject to the whims of the United States, mainly as a result of what the US did with the Iran deal. The people in the US do not seem to realise this, but there's very strong feeling against what Trump did with the Iran deal over here in Europe. And so and Iran knows that, and everyone else in the deal is within it. And according to they were saying on the BBC that there were some discussions going on between Iran and the US. Now, it seemed to be rather scuppered by the Soleimani killing, and then what Iran was doing in response to all their fiery words. But if this is really and truly the end of it, and if it's really concluded, and Trump does stop at that point, then the Iran deal is still open. And there's really no reason why they can't continue this dialogue, given time for tempers to die down a bit and for diplomats to meet and start talking to each other again. So I really don't see any reason why this couldn't continue and Trump returned to the deal. They're talking about renegotiating a new version of the deal, which deals with some of the issues that Trump raised. So we just have to see what happens there. But as I say, so let's just quickly go through these things. So have we gone through everything? He's not doing it for votes. They haven't withdrawn from the deal. There's no risk of the draft. Absolutely none. No way you're going to be drafted. Ignore all the fake news. And I'll just go simply through this. Why we don't risk World War III. And so this is just very simple, straightforward answers. And I've got lots of much more detailed answer down here, where this is a much more detailed answer. So you can have a read of that with all the sites and everything. But I recommend you have a little read about that if you're scared. So it's just very simple, simply describing it very simply. What happened, why it happened. And Iran cannot attack the US. No, it can't and won't. But many are scared because they don't understand. All these people who do those memes on Twitter, they don't understand. They're just kids at school, for instance, who just see everyone else doing memes and they have kind of dark black humour, and they do more memes themselves. Sometimes they just do it because they think it's funny, and they're not really serious about it themselves either. And does Iran have a nuclear bomb? No, it does not have a nuclear bomb. It has nuclear power stations, but not a bomb. Also, it has made its missiles so they can't get as far as the US. They're, by design and construction, they can't reach the US. Iran can attack US soldiers in the Middle East. Iran doesn't want to do battles with the US because it would lose them. So, in a tit for tat, they don't want to attack the US soldiers. That's why they don't really want to kill the US soldiers, because the US would just fire back and destroy their launch facilities, for instance, which would be very expensive and difficult to rebuild, and probably kill lots of Iranians as well, which would be proportionate if the Iranians killed lots of US soldiers. They don't want that. So I talked about various things they might do. Might kill all tankers, attack all tankers or refineries, attack US diplomats, or they did this last one, they attacked soldiers in Iraq. So Iran can't attack the US, Iran can attack US soldiers in the Middle East, but would lose any battles. They could attack in other ways, through e.g. oil refineries. So they did this, what they did was sort of in between the two. They launched an attack at the soldiers in Iraq, but they did it in such a way that either there were no casualties, or there were probably none, we don't yet know of any for sure. They did a very minimal attack, and it was just like saying, we're doing this to save face, let us save face, don't reply to us. That's basically their message. And that's not me saying that. That is this retired intelligence officer. They're asking us for a face-saving gesture. And basically his reading of the situation is that the Iranians, by doing this very limited, prescribed kind of attack, not prescribed, what's the word, very restrained attack on United States forces not actually killing anyone, especially if they haven't killed any US soldiers. And they're saying, let us do this. We need to fire a shot at you in order to... And you see, the thing is Iran is not a single person. There are moderates in charge, basically. The Iranian government is fairly moderate, as Iranian politics goes. And there are extremists who want them to do dramatic things. So they're basically doing this. They're doing to satisfy the extremists. They're saying, basically saying in a kind of coded message to US, let us do this. We've got to do this because you killed someone who was as important to us as the US, as the entire Iranian navy, and you must let us do this. But we have done it in such a way as not to cause any US casualties. So we've been very careful not to harm people. Do something that looks very dramatic, but it's not actually killing people. And it's very dramatic because instead of using cruise missiles, they use ballistic missiles, and it's quite a significant thing to fire a ballistic missile at a US base. So they chose a cruise missile nowadays would not be so dramatic as a ballistic missile. It's a short-range ballistic missile. They can't hit the United States. And they sent some that were liquid-fueled and some that were solid-propellant missiles, according to some military analysis I read recently. So, and that's basically what's going on. They're saying we could do more. We're going after military targets, but we want you not to respond. And Trump, he's very good at picking up these kind of coded messages. I think Trump, he gets misunderstood. I absolutely do not agree with most of his policies, but he has not turned out to be a hawk, and he's turned out to be quite shrewd and quite good at social signals. And he's read this just right, I think, from what I've read from the experts. So, so now I think I've answered everything of the main things that people are scared with. So if there's something that scares you and that I haven't answered, do say in the comments, and do have a read. I'll give the links to my Doomsday Debunk blog and to these ones that I've opened here, and then you can go and read a bit more. I just want to end as I did my longer video, so I'm doing a shorter video. The last one was rather too long and rambling, and I think I was a bit tired and a bit confused myself. Not confused in the ideas I was presenting, but just not giving a very clear layout of the video. And hopefully this is a little bit shorter and a little bit clearer. So I just want to end by saying that the ordinary Iranians, just ordinary people like us, and do have a read of this Arctic story of a different kind of war in Iran against desertification. And it's really rather wonderful what they
plant the trees.
See, don't you see this? This is just waste. This is just waste oil. Waste a byproduct of oil refinery spread over the desert, but it's not. It's not pollution. This is being used to trap moisture in the sand, and then they end up, if you watch the rest of the video, end up growing these trees in it. And this just looks just like dry sand, And if you are used to growing trees anywhere else, you'd think it would be absolutely incredible. But they have trees that do well in deserts. You just dig them into the sand, and because of the oil that they spread across it at an earlier stage, then this makes it a kind of sand that will retain just a little bit of moisture. And if you let's just play a little bit of it.
Like this. It is some kind of acacia. It doesn't need water. Now, 5 centimeter, maybe 10 centimeter below the root is humid just now. You can see the moisture. Moisture. It is moisture under the mulch.
See, just very, very slightly moist. You can see how it's a little bit sticky, the sand in his hand. Just very, very slightly moist.
The roots of the plant absorb the water of the sand.
So the water is being absorbed by the sand. He said the roots of the plant absorb the water of the sand. And now this is not what this eventually will grow trees and become vegetation. This is a very different part of Iran. It's the desert and it's an oasis, and this is just showing the beauty of the roses, which is one of the special.
Who would have thought that petroleum could play a role in stopping the march of the desert by fixing unstable sand dunes?
So, and this is not actually their project, is something else, but these are roses growing in the desert, and this just kind of shows how you can get plants growing in the desert. This is an area with beautiful roses in the deserts of Iran. And there's a lot of beauty, there are lots of good people in Iran. And this is showing, this shows the medical equipment. If you have had, it depends on your country, but they supply to 55 different countries, including Germany and what else? Croatia, the Netherlands, Russia, many other countries. And it says, I've got a link there, I'm not sure if I actually read, link to 55 countries in the Tehran Times. Then they supply very advanced, like medical imaging. So if you've had medical imaging in any of these countries, do you have a complete list of the countries? 55 countries worldwide. Russia, Germany, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands and Croatia are included. And they're planning to export them to Brazil, Iraq and Oman. And I wonder if they sell any to the UK where I live, I don't know. But and they sell radioisotopes which are used for cancer treatment throughout worldwide. So if you've had radiotherapy for cancer, then you might have been treated with radioisotopes produced in Iran. And if you've had medical imaging, then it's quite possible that the medical imaging equipment was made in Iran. And they do an awful lot more than make weapons and fire them at people. There's a lot of good stuff goes on in Iran, and I thought this is a good way to end this video. And there's lots more in all these. I'll add the links to all these open tabs to the video description. And so if you've got any questions, do say. Remember, do of course subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Do join our Doomsday Debunk Facebook group, where if you can help me with debunking and helping other people who are scared, and if you come there if you're scared, and then you'll find people like me there to help you with answering your comments and problems and your fears. And we debunk things by presenting things exactly as they are, no sugarcoating, but we don't do we see through the exaggerations. Like I said, the fake news, there's so much fake news like that, even in the Times of all places. We help you see behind the headlines, and the clickbait headlines and the fake news and find out what the true situation is. And no sugarcoating, just present things as they are to the best of our understanding, and other members joining in. And we have lots of people now who have, like for instance with Australian bushfires, we have many people from Australia who I can tell you on the ground, including people whose friends' houses have been burnt down and things like that. So we're now quite a big, well, it's 1,500 people, but from all over the world, and quite a lot of people there who from Russia, from different parts of the world, where they can give their perspective and help us see behind the headlines, and people with various areas of expertise, for instance in astronomy or whatever. So anyway, so just a shout out for our group, and any questions do say. And if I have any mistakes in any of my videos, then I will add that to the description as well. So do check the description for the extra links, and then the comments, and do comment if you've got anything you want to say, any questions you want to ask, etc. And hope this helped some of you to be a little bit less scared.